My name is John, and I'm telling you about the day our quiet life in a North Carolina suburb turned into a standoff that uncovered a scam and changed our neighborhood forever. My wife, Sarah, and I moved to this gated community 5 years ago, looking for a safe place to raise our kids, Emily and Jake. I'm a retired Marine gunnery sergeant, a former sniper with 20 years of service, and Sarah's a nurse who's seen her share of chaos in the ER. We're not the kind of people who look for trouble, but we're not strangers to handling it either. That's why, when two men posing as HOA cops crossed a line with Sarah, they didn't expect me to walk out with a Barrett .50 cal, ready to protect my family and get answers. It was a sunny Saturday in June 2024, and Sarah was out front, repainting our mailbox. The HOA had sent a notice claiming the color, a dark green, wasn't approved, even though we'd lived there for years without issue. Sarah, always practical, decided to repaint it to avoid the hassle. She was halfway through, paintbrush in hand, when a black SUV pulled up. Two men stepped out, wearing polo shirts with HOA security embroidered on them, badges clipped to their belts. They introduced themselves as Mike and Travis, part of the HOA's new compliance team. Right away, something felt off. The HOA had a neighborhood watch, sure, but it was just volunteers like Gary, the guy who patrolled in a golf cart. These two looked different, mid-30s, muscular, with an air of authority that didn't match the usual HOA busybodies. Mike, the taller one, started in on Sarah. "You're in violation," he said, pointing at the mailbox. "That color's not approved, and you didn't submit a request for changes." Sarah stayed calm, wiping paint off her hands. "I got the notice, and I'm fixing it now," she said. "The HOA approved this color when we moved in. I can show you the paperwork." Travis, shorter and with a buzz cut, stepped closer, cutting her off. "We don't need paperwork. You're going to pay a fine, and this mailbox comes down today." Sarah didn't back down. She's dealt with enough pushy people in the ER to know how to hold her ground. "I'm not paying a fine for following your rules," she said. "Call the HOA president if you have an issue." That's when things escalated. Mike grabbed the paint can from the ground and tossed it into our yard, splattering green paint across the grass. Sarah stepped forward, telling him to stop, and Travis, without warning, slapped her across the face. It wasn't a hard hit, but it was enough to make her stumble. "Don't talk back," he snapped. Sarah froze, her hand on her cheek, more shocked than hurt. Neighbors were starting to notice, peering from windows or stepping onto their porches. Sarah looked toward our house, and I was already moving. I'd been in the living room, cleaning my Barrett .50 cal, a rifle I'd kept from my Marine days, mostly for sentimental reasons. I heard the raised voices and saw the SUV through the window. When I stepped outside and saw Sarah holding her face, my blood ran hot. I'm not a hothead, never have been. 20 years as a sniper taught me to stay calm, to assess, to act only when necessary. But seeing my wife slapped by some stranger pretending to be an HOA enforcer? That crossed a line. I grabbed the Barrett from the table, checked it was unloaded, and walked out. The rifle's nearly 4 feet long, weighs over 30 pounds, and looks like something out of a war zone. I held it across my chest, not aiming, just making sure it was visible. Mike and Travis turned as I approached. Their eyes widened at the sight of the Barrett. "Who the hell are you?" Mike demanded, but his voice cracked. "I'm her husband," I said, nodding towards Sarah. "You just assaulted my wife. Step back now." Sarah moved to my side, her expression steady but angry. "John, they're not HOA," she said quietly. "I've never seen them before, and their badges look fake." I kept my eyes on the two men. "You heard her. Who are you, and why are you on my property?" Travis tried to play it tough. "We're HOA security. You're both in violation, and now you're threatening us with a weapon. We'll have you arrested." I didn't flinch. "You're not cops. You're not even HOA. I know every board member, and they don't have a security team. Show me your IDs, real ones." Mike hesitated, then reached for his pocket. I shifted the Barrett slightly, just enough to make him rethink. "Slowly," I said. He pulled out a wallet, but instead of an ID, he held up a piece of paper with the HOA logo. It looked like something printed off a home computer. That's not an ID, I said. Sarah, call the police. She was already dialing 911, keeping her eyes on the men. Neighbors were now openly watching, some recording on their phones. Mike and Travis exchanged a glance, and I could tell they were calculating their next move. You're making a mistake, Travis said, but his confidence was slipping. No, I said. You made the mistake when you put your hands on my wife. The police arrived within minutes. 2 officers, Jenkins and Patel, both of whom I knew from community events. I lowered the Barrett as they approached, placing it on the ground to show I wasn't a threat. Sarah explained what happened. The fake badges, the fine they tried to impose, the slap. I added what I'd seen and heard, pointing out the suspicious SUV and the lack of real credentials. Jenkins, a seasoned officer, turned to Mike and Travis. Let's see some ID. The men fumbled, producing driver's licenses, but no proof of HOA affiliation. Patel ran their names through the system, while Jenkins questioned them. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. Mike and Travis weren't HOA anything. They were part of a scam targeting wealthy neighborhoods, posing as enforcers to extort fines for fake violations. They'd hit several communities in the area, banking on residents paying up to avoid trouble. The slap was their way of intimidating Sarah when she pushed back. The officers cuffed them and searched the SUV, finding fake badges, forged HOA documents, and a laptop with a list of targeted homes. Our neighbors were stunned, some angry they hadn't noticed sooner. The story spread fast, and by evening, our street was buzzing with residents demanding answers from the real HOA. The HOA board held an emergency meeting that night at the community center. Sarah and I attended, along with about 30 neighbors. The board president, Karen, was flustered, insisting they'd never hired a security team. We're shocked as you are, she said, but that didn't satisfy anyone. Neighbors wanted to know how 2 strangers could operate in our gated community without anyone noticing. Someone pointed out the gate's security code hadn't been changed in years, making it easy for outsiders to get in. I spoke up, keeping my tone even. This isn't just about a scam. These men assaulted my wife. If Sarah hadn't stood her ground, and if I hadn't been there, how far would they have gone? We need better security, and we need the HOA to stop obsessing over petty rules and start protecting us. Sarah backed me up, her voice calm but firm. I'm fine, but this could have happened to anyone. We need cameras, better gate access, and a system to verify who's coming into our neighborhood. The meeting lasted hours, with neighbors sharing stories of other suspicious incidents, strange cars, people claiming to be utility workers. By the end, the board agreed to install cameras, hire a real security firm, and update the gate codes monthly. They also issued a formal apology to Sarah, though it felt more like damage control than sincerity. The aftermath was intense. Mike and Travis were charged with assault, fraud, and impersonation. The police uncovered a larger network of scammers operating across 3 counties, and our case helped break it open. Local news picked up the story, with headlines about fake HOA cops busted after assault. Sarah and I declined interviews. We didn't want the attention, but the neighborhood couldn't stop talking about it. Some called me a hero for stepping out with the Barrett, but I didn't see it that way. I was just protecting my family. Sarah handled it all with her usual grace. She went back to work the next day, treating patients like nothing had happened. But I could tell it shook her. Not the slap, but the idea that our kids could have been home, could have seen it. We talked late that night, and she admitted she'd been ready to take the men down herself if I hadn't shown up. I've seen worse in the ER, she said, but this felt personal. For me, the incident was a reminder of why I keep that Barrett. It's not just a relic of my past, it's a tool, a last resort. I didn't need to fire it that day, didn't even need to load it. Its presence was enough. But it also made me think about our neighborhood, our safety, and how quickly things can go wrong when people exploit trust. The neighborhood's different now. The HOA's stricter about security, and residents are more vigilant. Some neighbors treat us differently, like we're the couple who took down a scam with a .50 cal. Others just thank Sarah for her cool head and me for stepping in. We're still the same people, parents, workers, neighbors, but that day showed everyone were not the ones to mess with. As for Mike and Travis, they're awaiting trial. The evidence is airtight: body cam footage from the officers, neighbor videos, and their own fake documents. I don't know what drove them to think they could pull this off, but they picked the wrong house, the wrong wife, and the wrong husband. And that Barrett? It's back in its case, cleaned and ready, just in case.